All right. We are live for the last Tech Talk of the quarter, the last Tech Talk of the year, and the 100th episode of Tech and Teach Talks, which is kind of cool. So because it is the end of the quarter, we are going to talk about end of quarter, start of quarter checklists. We have put together an updated, what hopefully will be a useful resource for people, where you can just kind of keep it in your back pocket, maybe have it open in a little window when you're doing your routine end of term, start of next term administrative work in Canvas. And hopefully it's going to contain our best practices as we currently know them to be. But also this can be kind of a living document. So it's going to live in our FactDev course, and we can keep it updated over time. If we need to make any changes, any additions, we will do that. So hopefully this link that I'm about to put in chat, and that I will put in the video, the YouTube video description later on. Hopefully this link will just kind of always exist, we hope. And then I'm going to share my screen. And then I think what we're going to do is just kind of go down the list and kind of have a conversation about some of the more interesting or maybe tricky ones, and just kind of see how this goes. So I am going to share.
And while you're doing that, I remember kind of as we were talking about how to manage this session before this, if anybody has questions about specific processes, since we got about 25 minutes to work through these. Feel free to stop us and we can do quick kind of demos on the fly. But the goal of the checklist is to hopefully put that information in there so you can refer to it later as well.
Yes, exactly. Okay, well let's just get going on this. This is a single page in Canvas, and the first part of it is your end of quarter checklist, which is not too terribly long. And Tom already covered a fair amount of this at last week's Tech Talk about copying course content and rolling things over from one term to the next. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that part. But just to reiterate, and this is something that Tom said in last week's session, you don't need to do anything to conclude your Canvas course, assuming you haven't changed your course participation settings. And we generally recommend that you don't mess with those. Leave them the way they are. The default settings function pretty well. Tom, feel free to interrupt me if I get anything wrong on this. But what should happen is about a week after the official last day of the term, the course for that term will conclude in Canvas. What that means is it basically goes into a read-only state where changes can no longer be made to that course. And it should also fall off of your current courses on your dashboard, but it will continue to live in your
past enrollment
or all courses list in Canvas, both for you and also for your students. Your students will continue to see their old courses in Canvas, which can be helpful if they ever decide, oh, I need to find a paper that I did last year, or oh, I want to check the feedback that I got on this, or maybe a resource that my instructor shared with me. They can go back and do that. They can always go back and see those old courses. They can't change anything. They can't interact with it. And Tom, I think you mentioned this last week, they cannot access quizzes. They can't look at results or answer keys or the questions from any quizzes in Canvas. So if that is a concern about quiz security, once the course is concluded, the quizzes kind of stop being available to students. They can, however, see their old discussion posts, and they can see anything that they've submitted to any assignments, assuming those things are still published.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Is that true? So that is true even if the box in the settings for the course is checked that they can't access the course after the end date?
So
great question.
Yeah, so you do have those options in the course settings under participation. Something that Tom talked about last week, and maybe we can briefly mention it again, but unless there's like a really good reason to do that, I would hesitate to make any changes to those. The main reason being, when a course disappears for a student, they often think something is wrong. both before and after a term. We often get in our department and from our success coaches, they especially get panicky messages from students saying, I had this course and now it's gone. What happened? Did I get kicked from the class? Is it not going to be on my transcript? Did I fail? What happened? So we usually recommend, unless you have a really good reason for changing those things, I think it's often a good idea to leave them be. Let those courses conclude, let them go into that read-only state. And it's also for your own benefit, for your own kind of CYA, it's good to maintain that record of that class. If there were ever a question of a student's performance or their grades in a class, it's nice to be able to go back and look at that class and say, well, no, this is exactly what happened 3 terms ago. It's here in black and white. This is the history of the course.
And the student knows that.
And the student also has that, yeah.
Yeah, and you can still see those courses even if you check that restrict students from viewing. It didn't used to be that way. Like if you check that box, you would lock yourself out of the class too. It was kind of funny. Like you couldn't do anything in the course. I think you could still see it, but you couldn't do anything. The restrict students from viewing, yeah, they do get they get concerned that they're not going to get credit for the class. Like I've seen that a couple of times. So yeah, if you do have a really good reason for like this course should not be visible to students after the end of the term, make sure that you tell students up front that that's going to happen.
Yes.
Like more than once.
Yes.
That way they don't freak out. That's yeah.
Make an announcement at the end of the term saying this class, I'm going to close it after this date, blah, blah, blah. Make sure that they know. Tell them if there's anything in your assignments that you want to save, download them now because you won't be able to later. Something like that could be helpful. Transparency, I think, is always the best policy. At the end of the quarter, if you need to give a student an incomplete, and that student needs to continue working in the concluded course, again, please don't change the participation term dates for the course as a way of accommodating an incomplete, because when you do that, that course continues to be active for all students in the class. They continue to see it in their active courses list. And again, we have seen that happen where it causes confusion with the students saying, I took this class last term. Why is it here in winter quarter when I took it in fall? What's going on? It can cause a lot of confusion. So, and again, Tom, correct me if I got any of this wrong, but right now the workflow is when you fill out the college's official incomplete request form, there is now a field where you can indicate that that student needs continued Canvas access to this course. And then Tom gets a notification when that is checked off. And then what Tom does is puts that student into a separate incomplete section of the course, which has its own participation dates. And that student can continue accessing the class and the rest of the class doesn't. Is that accurate?
Yep. What happens is the course actually gets changed so that the course is still open and the section itself is still open, but the incomplete section, but the original section that all of the other students are enrolled into is closed, is concluded. So all the students that are in that original section no longer have active access to the course. They don't see it. It concludes them out. But for the student who still needs to be in there and the teacher, it remains an active course and an active enrollment that the student can continue to work on. You don't have to do this, right? Like just because you have an incomplete, you don't need to use Canvas unless you need to use Canvas, right? Like if you have a third-party platform or some reason that it needs to be happening in Canvas, absolutely we can do that. It's not a big deal. But if it's like a face-to-face class and they're going to give you their final paper via email, Canvas doesn't have to stay open. Sometimes instructors get concerned that their Canvas grade book won't match exactly what that student's final grade is. That actually doesn't, it's nice, but it doesn't ultimately matter because you are the final arbiter on what the grade is in the course. So.
Thank you. Perfect. Okay, moving forward, a couple of optional things that some instructors like to do is to export a course package of their course after they're finished teaching it. It's very simple to do that. I'm not going to tell you everything about it because we have it right here, including a Canvas guide on how to do it. But you can export the entire class as a zip file, essentially, on your computer, and then you have it. Adjuncts, especially, if an adjunct is teaching the same course or versions of the same course at 3 different institutions, I would like them to be able to use their content because it belongs to them. So if you want to do that, do that. Export your whole course, and then it's very easy to re-upload that into either a different class in a different course shell in our Canvas or in a different institution's Canvas shell if you need to do that. Likewise, with exporting your gradebook, you can export that as a CSV file, which is a spreadsheet file that you can open in Excel. If you want to have a copy of it that way, some instructors, they do complicated things with their grade calculation, and you could always do that in Excel. I don't think that that's usually a good idea, but that's a whole different topic. But you can export a file version of that gradebook at the end of the term, just so you have it in your records.
Yeah, I usually see it for record retention.
And then just as a best practice, this probably sounds like common sense, but oftentimes we don't do it. I don't always do it when I should. Take some time to reflect on any course changes or updates that you need to make before you go on your holiday break, before you leave the office. Either take some notes, make a Word document for yourself of, oh, I need to change this video in module 1. I need to update this link. I need to modify this assignment. All those things that happen during the quarter and you're like, oh, that didn't work at all. I should do that differently next time. If you don't write it down, you're probably going to forget it when you come back after winter break and you're setting up next term's classes. So take a moment to write those things down. If you really want to and you have the time and you want to make those updates now, sure, go for it. But at the very least, I highly recommend just taking a few minutes and making yourself some notes of what you need to change. All right, so then that's kind of all the main things that we recommend doing at the end of the quarter, unless anybody can think of anything else that we are missing on there. Tom says in the chat, I used to create an unpublished page in the course and running notes of the course as it unfolded, which is a great idea. And also a great location to do that, because then you're not going to miss it. It's just, it's unpublished. You're the only one that can see it, but keep your notes in there. And then go and enjoy your winter break. Please, if at all possible, turn off your computer and put your out of office notification on your email. Craig is shaking his head no. Do as I say, not as I do, Craig. But when it's time to come back, when it's time to get ready for the next quarter, then we have this start of quarter checklist. The first thing to note is your new course shells will be created automatically as soon as you are officially listed as the instructor of record for a section that you're supposed to be teaching. As soon as your department admin puts that into CTC link, it should automatically create the Canvas shell and it should put you in it as the instructor. If that doesn't happen, then you should check in CTC link and see if you have that class listed in your roster. If you don't, then it might mean that there's a holdup in you being listed as the instructor of record. You should probably check with your department chair or your department admin or something. If it is in CTC link and it's not showing up at Canvas, then maybe talk to us and we'll investigate and see what's going on there.
Wait at least 2 to 3 hours after you're listed as the instructor of record in CTC link to ask us, because it will take a few hours, usually 1, but give it 4, right?
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Go on a walk.
Go,
make some tea.
Take your dog on a walk.
Come back.
Go make dinner, and then if it's still not there, then maybe ask us. But that should happen automatically if everything is going according to plan. An optional note, because some people do this, if you are using the course favorites in your dashboard and in your course list, I'll just go and look at that really quickly here. If I go to my all courses, what I do, because I have lots of non-live, non-term courses, is I use these favorite buttons to kind of curate what shows up on my dashboard. However, if you do that, then that's going to override the system's natural curation of the current term's courses. So if you are doing this, then you need to go in here and manually unstar old courses and manually restar the new courses. If you don't do this, if you don't use this, then it's going to do that for you automatically. It'll take the last term's course after they're concluded off your dashboard and put the new term's courses in your dashboard in the unpublished area. Is that right, Tom? Did I get that right?
Yep, new term courses, new courses will automatically drop into your dashboard.
Okay,
But if you favorite something, that will stay on your dashboard forever
thank you.
until you take it off. Even
Okay.
once it term concludes, it'll still stay on your dashboard.
Okay,
But then once you unstar it, if it is term concluded, you can't restar it as a favorite again. It won't let you.
Oh.
Just so you know. So
Yeah.
if you have something that's a past enrollment that was an instructional course that you really want to keep on your dashboard and it's favorited, don't unfavorite it or you won't be able to get it back in your favorites list.
That's good to know.
If that matters to you.
And I'm going to update that on this page later. In very specific circumstances, you can request course merges. Currently and fairly recently, Tom did a cool thing where now if a course has a lecture and a lab section, it will automatically be listed as a single course in Canvas. You no longer have to request lecture lab merges, which is the great majority of merge requests that we got. You don't have to do that anymore. It should just do that for you. But there are still other situations where it may be appropriate to request a course merge. If you have a cohort program, if you have an IBEST section, class section that runs concurrently with a non-IBEST class, then you can request course merges for those things. You can't just do it because you want to. If you have 2 or 3 sections of the same class that you're teaching, but they have entirely different class rosters and different schedules, you cannot merge those. That is a FERPA problem. Students shouldn't see who is in other classes that they're not enrolled in. So we shouldn't do that. Can't ask for that. If you ask for that, Tom will say no, sorry. But there is a link here to our course merge guidelines saying what is and is not appropriate to request a merge form. And then also there is a link to the merge request form on the bottom of that where you can actually put in, these are the classes that I need to merge. This is why they get, why I believe they have a merge exception. And then Tom will look at that and take care of it. Good idea to verify course names, numbers, dates, and rosters in CTC Link because those are entered manually by a person into CTC Link, which then gets pushed over into Canvas. So sometimes mistakes do happen. Sometimes a course gets mislabeled or miscoded. So it's a good idea just to double check those things. Better to do it sooner rather than later when it might be a problem for students later on. So just kind of check that. And then copying course content. I'm not going to spend much time on this because Tom did a pretty good comprehensive dive into this last week. And we have one of these is the link to the YouTube.
Demo.
That's the link to last week's Tech Talk. So watch that if you missed it. There's also a link to the Canvas guide. A couple of weird things. As soon as you're done copying a course, you should click on Panopto recordings just once. You just have to click on it. But when you do that, it nudges Panopto to provision a directory folder for this new course section. And then that's where linked copies of your Panopto videos go. If you do not click on it, then all of those video links, video embeds, any Panopto video you have in the class is not going to be visible for students. And I think a lot of times that's why you get all those access request email notifications from students. So as soon as you're done copying, just click on that. That's all you got to do. Click on it once. That's all Panopto needs to know to say, oh, this is a new active course. We need to make a folder for it. Here it is. All the videos get added to it. Everybody's happy, right? Tom is, yeah, ish. Okay.
It depends on how you, it depends on where you put the videos to begin with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. When you are, I guess maybe this should go up with this, but when you're making a course copy, you can either remove all assignment dates, you can shift them, or you can manually change them. Again, Tom talked about this last week, so I won't spend a lot of time in there. Just know that you do not have to do those one at a time. There are several different ways to bulk edit those, and it will save you literal hours if you don't already know how to do it. Make sure to update your syllabus. Again, Tom is trying to get his, there we go, trying to get some fireworks on his screen. You should update your syllabus, which sounds obvious, but sometimes people forget. Little bit of my personal soapbox. If you make your syllabus either in the syllabus tool or as a Canvas page, then it is very easy to make those updates. You just find the page, you click edit, and you put the new term dates in it, make any changes you need to do, hit save, and you're done. You're happy. It's all fine. If you have your syllabus as a Word document or a PDF or something else, then you will have to either download a copy from the class or find an old version on your computer, make the update, save it as a new file, upload it to Canvas, delete the old version. Yes, you can do it. That's fine. If that's the workflow you're comfortable with, fine. But if you did it as a page or as a syllabus, it would save you a lot of time. Similar to Panopto, if you are using Respondus Lockdown Browser or Respondus Monitor as a proctoring tool in your quizzes and tests, you also need to click on it once in the same way that you do with Panopto to kind of hit the system and provision, reconnect Respondus to all of the quizzes in your class. And again, all you should have to do is just click on it once and let it load up. But if you don't do that, it may cause problems when students go to take those tests.
And they'll get a very specific little notification asking them to talk to you to make that happen. So
Yeah.
save yourself some time.
Yeah, it's very strange. I've seen that message and it is like
A little bit of a nasty
your
grant.
instructor effed up. Go tell them that they did this wrong, and then you have to fix it. So just avoid that entirely by clicking on that once. Great idea to run the link validator and test that all of your links are still valid. That will let you know if there are anything linking to old courses, which can be really tricky because if you have access to that old course, the link's going to work just fine for you.
Yep.
But your students are not in that old course, so they will get an access denied error message. And sometimes if you don't know what's happening, that's super difficult to troubleshoot. But if you do the link validator, you'll be able to catch those things.
And just as an example, right, like our college websites are constantly changing. And those are the ones I see, you know, you're linking students to some sort of student resource, whether it be the library or tutoring. Yeah, those change constantly. So that's always something good to check term to term. Another thing that we just noticed was the old link to like the bookstore. Bookstore's changing hands, so links that kind of got students to that space are now going to be different. So that's what link validator checks.
And it's also tricky because link validator is not smart. It's going to do its best, but if the link still works, but the content on that page has changed, it's not going to know any different. So it's still a good idea to kind of manually check those things when you have time. Jess, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand, because I know years ago I've made mistakes of like, so if the links are to Panopto videos that live somewhere else, if I click the Panopto folder and haven't messed something up, there's a decent chance that like, well, I guess my question is, will the link validator check issues with the Panopto video links? That's one.
I don't think it'll check the permissions on it. So if it's living in a past course's Panopto recordings folder and you didn't provision the Panopto recordings folder in the new term, that might be an issue. But if it's, you know, you set the permissions manually, it'd probably be fine. But yeah, I don't think it gets to that level of granularity. It's usually if it can't reach something or the domain's not found. Yeah.
That's actually a really good thing that we should test.
Okay.
Like it's because sometimes it'll check, sometimes it resolves things, sometimes it doesn't. And usually it tries, right? It tries to load the content. That frame, depending on what Canvas reads as a positive load, I honestly have never seen it churn back an error on a Panopto video, but I know how to make it have an error if it would possibly have one. So I'm going to test it.
Okay.
Sweet.
Thanks. And then, sorry, the other part of my question with the link validator is, so say you're linking to an online homework platform and then you copy a course in. Like, I know I'm terrified to copy a course that was linked to a platform, which is why I make shell courses, but I am now curious if I were to copy that in and run the link validator, if it would just like tell me like, hey, all of your links are wrong because this course is like old. No, it won't tell me. Okay.
Yeah, no, so you reprovision like the LTI as long as you reprovision that platform. Because you can, like most of the platforms at this point have a deep linking function where you provision your content in the Canvas course when you copy from one term to the next, all you do is authenticate through as the instructor to that platform. And it goes, oh, I recognize all of these links. Let me put my little tendrils into all those links. So you don't have to actually, it is actually quite smart these days in terms of how that's managed for most third-party platforms.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the thing here to add, it's similar to Panopto and Respondus provision, any publisher.
Okay.
I'll
Tom,
fix
does that mean it also like changes the dates for the term? Like it's smarter than I think it is?
So normally what you have to do is on the third-party platform, you're going to duplicate that course for the current term, and you're going to say like, do this with it. And then when you do that, when you kind of make the connection between Canvas and the platform, it's going to go, oh, okay, let me line this stuff up.
Okay.
Right? It just kind of like finds it and matches it up. But I have seen platforms where it does like load those due dates in from the third-party tool. If you've kind of just said, all right, shove this to the next term, start on this day, end on this day. And then when you sync up to Canvas, it's like, oh, cool, we're done. Sometimes that actually happens when you're syncing to Canvas. It says, when does this class start? When does it end? And then it just goes and actually does a pretty good job of it. But you want to double check that as always with any due dates.
Okay,
Good.
thanks.
Okay, briefly, great idea to do a quick run of the Ally Accessibility Checker. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because we have many other resources, including one that's linked here. But now is a great time to double check if you have any major accessibility issues that you could remedy pretty quickly. Good idea to verify your student roster in CTC Link. Again, similar to other things in CTC Link, once a student enrolls and shows up in the CTC Link roster, they will be added automatically to the student roster in Canvas. But just like anything in CTC Link, it could take a couple of hours, sometimes up to 4, I think Tom said, for that to happen. But again, if a student appears in the course roster in CTC Link, but hasn't appeared in the Canvas roster after a number of hours, maybe reach out to us and we might need to investigate it. And if you haven't checked your Canvas roster before, Canvas as a guide for using the people page, but people page is pretty straightforward. I'm not going to spend time on that. Best practice that we highly encourage you to do, consider publishing something early. It can be your course syllabus, it could be an intro module, it could be a homepage, it could be a welcome message. But again, one of the most common support calls we get from students is it's getting close to the start of term and they don't see the course in their Canvas dashboard. And they panic because they worry they didn't enroll, or they have a hold, or they didn't pay their bill, or they got dropped. And they are very anxious about that if they don't see the course. Or if they see the course because you published it, but it's empty, is also a big source of anxiety. So even if you're not ready to publish everything, which is fine, often we're not, highly recommend at least publishing something so that students know that you are present, you are active, you're a human being who is on the other end of the tube. Publish something in your course and do it early. It's nice to do it a week or 2 early if at all possible. And then, but as part of that, you do have to actually publish the course.
Don't forget that.
Don't forget that part, very important. As soon as you hit publish, it will appear on students' dashboards, and any published content within the course will also be visible to them. Similar to end of term, before the start date of the term, the course is in read-only mode for students where they can't interact with anything. They're not going to be able to take a syllabus quiz early. They're not going to be able to submit any assignments or do an intro discussion module early, but they can at least see those things early. So they will at least get a sense of the structure of the course before the first day of class. So again, the more that you can have prepared and published for students ahead of time, the better. But again, at least a welcome message is awfully nice and encouraging for students. And then lastly on our list, great idea to get into student view after you've hit publish and after you publish content, get into student view and review your course. Because just because something looks one way to you doesn't always mean it looks that way to students, especially when it comes to how your modules are set up, how your due dates are set up, how assignment instructions look. great idea how your nav bar looks.
Yeah,
Is
that's
also a
great.
big one. Look at it from your student view, and just kind of do like a quick tour of the course as if you were a student. And you're almost always going to find something where, oops, didn't do that the way I thought I did. So please always do that. It just comes down to empathizing with your student and literally seeing things from their point of view. Please do that. And once you've got everything else done, but you have to publish first. I
The
wish
student view will catch the.
Yeah. But like when you're setting up a course and it's not ready to go live, I wish you could do student view then, but I don't think
Yeah,
you're
right.
able to. It doesn't let you, which is kind of
You can. You
What?
can now. Yeah, give it a shot.
Of course,
It's there are things that you will bottom out on, but yeah, there are a lot of things that do work on student view.
in an unpublished course.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. As long as the content is published, it works. If you have date locks on modules, it's gonna go, no, that don't work. That don't work. Availability dates on assignments, all that's still functioning as you expect. But like if you just want to get in and see if your opening module functions correctly, yeah.
Well, shoot, Tom, Christmas came early.
Yeah, it used to not. Like it used to be like
Yeah, cool. And that is everything that we have on our checklist. We are a little past time, but we did okay given how much content we had there. But we can still hang out for a few minutes if there are any questions. If you feel like we missed anything or if we could clarify anything, let's chat. Or if you're ready to go, then it was great having you this quarter. Keep in touch over the break. We will almost always have at least one person in the room over the break. Obviously, reduced capacity during the holiday, but we're going to have people around. So we're here for you if you need us. And with that, I am going to end the live stream, but I won't close the Zoom room just yet. Okay, live stream is ended.
So fancy.
Very nice.